Welcome back here, guys, to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel. And since the end of the NFL season here, I've been giving you continual updates on some rumors regarding the top free agents here in the NFL. We finally had some action here in the last 24 to 48 hours. Most notably, Greg Hardy and Jimmy Graham, number 1 and number 2 on my top 50 free agent list, have been franchised by their respective teams. Hardy's tender is thought to be worth $11.5, $12 million. This keeps him in Carolina at least for next season. And they're in a situation where now they have a gaping hole at left tackle with the retirement of Jordan Gross. And it has to be a contributing factor into why maybe they were not able, to sign Greg Hardy to a lucrative extension. So Hardy's there for at least another year. They retain a guy who's had 25 sacks in 2 years, 15 last year, and a guy who's a monster against the run as well. So Greg Hardy back in Carolina. Jimmy Graham, a little bit of a different story in my mind. I think there's some animosity developing between Graham and the Saints because from what you're hearing, Graham is not happy about being slapped with the franchise tag, and I don't blame him. He gets a $6 million franchise tag, and certainly when he does sign that long-term deal, and I still think that will be with the Saints eventually, if it's not this offseason, the next offseason, he's going to sign a deal probably worth $9, $10 million a year. I think more in a $10 million a year range. So he's a guy who sort of gets a little bit ripped off in the 1 year because he's certainly worth on the open market a lot more than the $6 million tender. He will file a grievance to try to get the wide receiver tender here. We'll see how that works out. But again, the Saints franchising Jimmy Graham. Some teams reaching deals with their free agents here before free agency. And we'll start off with Dennis Pitta of the Ravens, a 5-year, $32 million deal, a little over $6 million per year. And I thought that was the sweet spot for Pitta. If you listen to this channel, I thought if he could get a value contract worth around what the franchise tag was, which is a little over $6 million, I thought that would be a fair deal for both sides. That puts him firmly in about the top 10. I think he'll be about the 9th highest paid tight end after signing this deal. And I look at Pitta with his value to the Ravens as being a top 10 tight end in the NFL, obviously when he's healthy, which is the caveat for all these players. But Dennis Pitta gets a deal done with the Ravens, and I know Joe Flacco has to be ecstatic about that. He gets a guy that was valuable for him in 2012 and that he sorely missed, certainly in 2013. Moving on here, Riley Cooper signed, obviously, yesterday with the Eagles. The number 2 or 3 receiver, depending on how you look at it now, also gets signed in Philadelphia today in Jeremy Maclin. He signs a 1-year deal worth about $6 million, and I think that was smart for Maclin to do. You heard yesterday that Maclin wanted a 1-year deal, but the Eagles wanted to sign him to a multi-year deal. And people were wondering why Maclin wouldn't take a multi-year deal. Well, it's pretty simple. A guy like Jeremy Maclin, he's healthy coming off a good season, is going to command probably in the $8 million a year range, at the top end of secondary receivers. He didn't want to accept a deal that was, let's say, 2 years, $11 million, or 2 years, $10.5 million. He thinks he can make more if he has a healthy season this year, and I like a guy who has confidence in his abilities like that. Maclin takes the 1-year, $6 million offer from the Eagles, and I'm interested to see how he's integrated in Chip Kelly's offense. I think that's a smart move for both sides now because now Nick Foles has this arsenal of weapons to throw to here in Philadelphia and ones that he is familiar with and back in the fold here for him early in his development. Also another signing today. We don't know the figures on this one, but Donald Butler, the inside linebacker, will return now, to the Chargers. That solidifies their linebacking core there in San Diego. Butler would have been one of, if not the most sought-after inside linebacker in free agency. Yes, I know you have guys like Carlos Dansby who will also be free agents, but remember, Butler's only like 25 years old at the start of next season. So a young guy, a productive guy that I think the Chargers were smart to lock up because you look at it this way. Who were they going to get that was better than him in free agency when you consider the whole package? Familiarity with the system, age, and production. Very smart move, again, to lock up Donald Butler. Getting to some more rumors now here. Some rumors you're hearing regarding Eric Decker, one of the other prize free agents here that was in the top 10 of my top 50 free agents list. Decker rumblings with him going to Indianapolis and that really picking up steam. And with the Colts with over $30 million in cap space, I thought some of that cap space would certainly be spent on the offensive line, an area where they can greatly improve. But look, if they think Decker is a guy that they can bring in and team with, guys like T.Y. Hilton and their stable of tight ends, remember they get Dwayne Allen back next year off of injury. If they look at Decker as being a big part of that, okay, and they're willing to pay him in that $8 million a year range, sort of the top end of secondary receivers, that's like what the Victor Cruz gets paid. I think that's the range you can expect Decker to be in. We'll see if him and Indy, if there's any truth to those rumors once free agency happens, and if he ends up going from one legit playoff contender in Denver to another legit playoff contender in Indianapolis, and really sort of maybe sway the balance of power there in what I think is a wide open AFC. And lastly, I want to hit on D'Qwell Jackson because I think he's an interesting player here at linebacker. This is a guy who's not at the top of his position, but is certainly a legit NFL starter. And a guy I think was done a favor by the Browns in being let go so early here that it gives him a head start as far as visiting with teams. You're hearing teams like the Cardinals, the Broncos, the Titans, all interested in D'Qwell Jackson. And I think he's going to get a decent contract. Now, with the Browns, he was going to get paid like a guy who's at the top of the position. I don't think he's there, but I think he's in that next rung under. And a guy that if I'm a good team looking to add a linebacker, especially with the fact there's not many great linebackers in this free agency class, he's the guy I'm looking at bringing in. And I think he could be an asset to any of the three teams that I had mentioned he's linked to. Again, the Broncos, the Titans, or the Cardinals. Guys, let me know what you think of some of these signings, the franchise tags, and some of the rumors I threw in at the end here. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter as well. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, guys. It's completely free, and I'm always covering the NFL wall-to-wall and the NFL draft as well. I'm in the middle of my 7-round NFL mock draft, so be sure to subscribe. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.